Hello and welcome to another episode of And Then We Win. My name is Dr. Justin Singleton. I'm the founder of Just Single Vision Consulting, and I'm also one half of the duo that serves as a host for this show. I'm sorry I look like what I've been through. It's been a long week. This is my first semester back in the classroom again, and it is midterms, and so if you know, then you know. All that to say is that it's been a blessing and a pleasure to be here to introduce you to another episode. I have a special guest here as he's been doing this work on this side of helping athletes bring their best foot forward. Dr. Alex Diaz has developed this method called the Sports Mental Edge. He's been helping athletes for over 20 years, and it was pretty interesting as we got into conversation a little bit later on the episode about his work with neuroscience and performance. And I didn't realize how much I started to geek out about neuroscience until later on that evening. And so who knows, maybe I'm supposed to be a neuroscientist on one day or maybe in my next lifetime. But however, please sit back, get you a pen, notepad, and get ready to take some notes down on some very good topics that we addressed on this episode. So thanks for tuning in, and make sure that you share this podcast with your friends. Yes, we are available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So hope you like this episode. Sit back and enjoy. All right. Thank you, Dr. Diaz, for joining us today, for being our special guest. You are the founder of Sports Mental Edge, and what I got your message in your profile, you said you've been doing this work for over 20 years. And so how has the discipline changed? I'm pretty sure you've seen a whole lot over the course of time. And so when you talk about like sports performance and even sports social work in a sense, how much has changed over the years since you've been in this field?
Thank you, Justin, for having me over. It's really a great opportunity. And I've been blessed. I'm blessed to be in this field on sport performance. I was in psychotherapy. I still am, basically. I've been for the past 35 years. And in the spirit of helping clients how to navigate stressors, there was an interesting new understanding, particularly of the communication between the brain and the nervous system, which up until then was basically divided between understanding through medication, through psychology, but those two fields that were not really talking to one another until better research began to understand, but we have a common nervous system that informs the brain, digests information, and then we turn that information into behavior. So all that wonderful information came about the year about late 1990s and 2000. That's what led me to understand that in helping clients, the notion of using what's normally called CBT is extremely wonderful, and it's very useful and powerful. However, like most things in life, even psychotherapy, there are certain limitations. One limitation that was, I think, better understood is that there are parts of the brain, when it comes into high levels of stress and trauma, that the brain goes, the emotional part of the brain goes off, and therefore is unable to process the traumatic experience, and therefore the brain gets stuck in those moments. Meaning, if I try to make sense and logically try to process that highly emotional charge, the brain is not quite capable, not efficient to process that information. So new ways of addressing this understanding because of the nervous system, there are professionals and researchers that say, hey, but what about mind-body integration? That's the communication between the brain and the body. So they have Van der Kolk, and they have Peter Levine, and they had Daniel Siegel. Then there were many other professionals that were looking into this. And they have been around for many, many years. The Western culture is more based on thinking and logic, but the Eastern culture, the Asian culture, is more about the body. So I guess we're trying to merge these two fields together. And that's what led me to understand that in addressing trauma, particularly the understanding and clinical use of somatic-based, mind-body-based strategies could be very, very helpful. Therefore, I pursue a certification in what is called somatic experiencing, SE. Then I saw a lot of value into this work, which complements it beautifully with the cognitive understanding. And then I moved on to the next level, which is pursuing a PhD in somatic psychology. When I was writing my dissertation, it came to mind, oh, what about athletes? Athletes tend to think, tend to plan, tend to be in with very good intentions, optimistic and positive, but they tend to do positive thinking and logic. Oftentimes, disregarding how to use the ability of the equipped body and its function to more efficiently regulate stress. So, in pursuing this degree, I realized I have this opportunity to now include working with athletes. And of course, my understanding then, or the application rather, was trauma. But later I began to understand that it goes beyond trauma. When I am a baseball player, I am a bat, and I have these butterflies in my belly, I can talk myself, or try, or attempt rather, to eliminate or try to minimize the butterflies in my belly. Now, I can talk all I want. Butterflies are not going anywhere. They are remaining part of the body. Because if they could, if my positive belief or my positive talk will do away with the butterflies, then it'd be quite one quick solution. All I have to do is be positive. So by engaging how the body works and maybe using a breathing technique or noticing those butterflies rather than hoping that they go away or minimizing them or getting upset with them, that doesn't help to manage what the body is talking non-verbally. So by addressing non-verbally through the breathing, for example, then the body, quote unquote, understands how this strategy is being addressed and help them to now recognize the butterflies. And by alleviating those stresses through, in this case, a breathing technique, those butterflies will begin to minimize. And to a great extent, we cannot do away with, or hope, much rather, to play stress-free. Sure, it'd be nice to be stress-free in life.
Mm-hmm.
But but I think that we need stress, right? In order to hit those home runs or to be in those moments when I have to really make a 30 pass through quarterback in order to move first down with 45 seconds left in the game. We are down by 4 points. Stress is going to come up. So the body needs to not only recognize, but build the capacity so I can manage those stressors. So we cannot expect that to play with no stress. I think it is our homework to build the capacity, to build the strengths so that I can play with this level of stress. So I usually say, stress can be this high, but if my internal capacity is this low, this stress is very high. If my internal capacity is this high, this stress now becomes manageable. So it's not about lowering the stress. Sure, I can lower the stress, even better. But if I can build my internal capacity to sustain stress, then this becomes manageable. Right? So when I begin to talk with athletes, they often say to me, I just want to be stress-free. Well, good luck. Because you're trying to accomplish something that is not quite, first, I don't know if it's possible because stress is part of life. But I think that you'd be we'd be playing with a higher level of confidence in yourself. If you have that feeling, oh, I can manage this and I know how to move forward, and trust that your skills will hopefully execute. Now, if it's a guarantee that the 30-yard pass down the line, down the field, will be caught by a wide receiver, no. Will it be translating to guaranteeing hitting a ground ball into an open field and then so I can move the face from first to second? No. But those are things I have very little control over. All I can do is manage myself. That's all I can do. Because the better I can manage myself, hopefully the rest will follow. And if it doesn't follow, then I have to put in my homework sheet, okay, what are things I can work on to improve? What are things I have control over? What are things I have no control over? Right. So we've seen beautiful, great games in these playoffs, in the in over this past weekend. And we have another one now with Pittsburgh
Hmm.
Steelers. I mean, what great games. Unbelievable. Many of them have come from behind. And it's just a matter of a split of a second or split of an inch that made one pass to be successful or not successful. Is it credit always to the quarterback? No. It's always credit to the wide receiver? Maybe. Is it that the cornerback was always at fault? No. Is it firing the coach because he lost the game? I don't think maybe it's a solution. Oftentimes not. There are so many little pieces on this football equation that one game or one play, maybe in the first quarter, in the first 3 minutes, could have made a significant difference that now with 30 seconds down the line, that would have been avoided. So it's easy for us, the outsiders, to say, "Oh, but that wide receiver that missed the catching the ball." Yeah, but when they had the opportunity to move the chain in the first quarter, they missed it. They missed a tackle, and had they made that tackle, they would have been able to move the chain. Therefore, may have had the opportunity to kick a field goal. Therefore, now this under pressure situation in the fourth quarter would have been completely unnecessary, right? So it's easy to point fingers for plays happening in the last minute or so. But anyways, going back to what we have control over, I think is if we can revert a little bit the lens and look at ways so we can develop capacities so I can better self-soothe my stress, hopefully the rest will follow. And what the rest follows, be positive and good. And if it isn't, it's a learn opportunity. It's a learn opportunity.
I like the fact that you mentioned that stress is always going to exist because I don't think people realize no matter what you're doing, whatever you're going to, whether positive, negative stress, like
Yeah,
stress is going to be present. It's all
that's
about
right.
how you overcome the
That's right.
stress and
Yep.
what makes a difference. And do you have the tools to do it?
That's
That's
right.
the most
Yeah,
important
yeah,
thing.
yeah. Yeah. So a lot of clients, I mean, always they come in saying, I have this much stress and I cannot perform. Okay, I get it. So what do you do that helps you to be better able to manage stress? I stretch, I practice, I go to practice 5 times a week, I go to the gym. What do you do as a stress management technique that you are regularly using? They have a great coach who has great skills, and what are you doing? We don't implement effectively and consistently enough stress management techniques before the game, during the game, and after the game as part of implementing and complementing what is necessary in order to be an elite performer. It's
Or
not
like to add
just
on top
skills.
of that too is that they may not understand what those techniques are. Because they
Absolutely.
believe what they're
Yes.
doing is like, oh, this is a great stress reliever technique.
Right.
Like, no, it's
That's
not.
right.
Like, but
That's right.
like, what's
Yeah.
best for the body, as you're
That's right. Yeah.
probably gonna
Yeah.
say. But yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. In all fairness, Justin, if I happen to work with a high school varsity athlete, they're still in the middle, if that high, learning pyramid.
hmm
Not even close to being a professional athlete, not even close to be an NCAA athlete. They're just high school students that are trying to navigate learning school and practice as much as they can, but they're still learning. So in the learning curve, they're still learning a lot of skills, a lot of working on, strength and conditioning. So it's a lot they're trying to incorporate. So to add the sports angle stress management in the many things they're trying to learn may not necessarily come as the top 2 or 3 things they want to learn
hmm
because they are the skills that they need to learn how to read different plays or how to be a stronger body or more tenacity physically in order for me to perform as an athlete. Now, ideally is okay, how we can maybe incorporate, maybe not substantially, but at least the language, the conversation of, or the many things you're learning, let's apply 5 minutes or 10 minutes for stress management because if they can do that, then the body relaxes rather than being tense. The muscles are more flexible rather than being tight. We know that injuries happen most likely. Sure, the impact, of course, can happen. But if the muscles are tight, they're more likely to lead to injuries. So if I practice intentionally some muscle relaxation techniques in between games, in between plays, while I am on the bench. Or if I keep practicing that and incorporate it, I am helping the muscles to feel more relaxed and therefore increase the chances that they will not be tight and therefore minimize the chances of being injured. So there are things that can be added that doesn't really take hours of practice. It may take an hour to learn them, but if it can be incorporated, actually the performance of that young athlete can substantially be increased. And one of the additional benefit is that we are helping um, injuries from taking place.
Yeah. That was going to be my next question is just thinking about, the different lifespans of development for athletes and
Yeah.
just thinking about, what are what are some of the key areas or key focus of some of those athletes during the most, important parts of the development? You just mentioned for high school athletes, you're going to do something to
Yeah.
kind of,
That's
not
right.
be more in depth as a professional athlete
That's
and
right.
a little bit less
Exactly.
than NCAA athlete, but like, what are some things that you feel like, what's your experience, like some critical areas of support that might be needed in this space for those across various different lifespans?
So it's a learning curve, right?
Mm-hmm.
The top of this pyramid are reached by very, 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 very few athletes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is it skills? Absolutely. Is it mental toughness? Absolutely. Is it focus? Yes. Determination? Yes. There's also another component that I strongly work with athletes, which is not necessarily motivation. Well, yes, it's motivation, but more importantly than motivation is discipline. I can be motivated, Justin, and say to myself, okay, is 2026. I want to hit the gym and do this, blah, 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 blah. Great. Very nice. It comes on January 15th. Now it's raining outside. I went to bed late. In order to perform at a higher level, we need to be disciplined. I may not be motivated that morning to get up and go to the gym, but in order to perform at a higher level, discipline is the key.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to be motivated every single morning to go to the gym. Sometimes I'm not motivated at all. That's the last thing I want to do is to get up in the morning. I'm not motivated. But if I am disciplined, I can overcome not being motivated enough. But I am
Mm-hmm.
disciplined to go into the gym. I'm disciplined to avoid certain foods. I'm disciplined to go to these meetings. I'm disciplined to watch these films. I'm disciplined to avoid certain situations that can increase the chances of me getting in trouble. Discipline, I think, is a great component for these athletes to increase their chances of achieving a higher level that they are hoping to achieve. Now, then we don't know if the competition is very high.
Mm-hmm.
I remember kind of a cute story. I was working with a very, very young athlete. I think he was maybe about 12 or 13 years old, very young.
Wow.
He had a wonderful, wonderful baseball swing. I mean, beautiful. There's a baseball player out in Seattle. I think his name was Griffin many years ago. Had a beautiful swing. Anyways, he reminded me of his swing.
Mm-hmm.
And every time he was coming to my office, he kept saying to me, Dr. Diaz, I'm going to play for the Yankees. I'm going to play for the Yankees. I want to play for the Yankees. He kept showing me the video of his swing. So one day it occurred to me to try this technique. And I said, I know I have a beautiful swing, but there's no way that you will ever play for the Yankees. I did it on purpose, right? So his face went, it's like the world collapsed in front of him. So then I said, well, let me reframe what I just said. The day you play for the Yankees, I'm going to be the first person to buy a ticket because I would really want to see you competing. No question about it. However, if you think that just because you have a nice swing, that you will be making it to the Yankees, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of kids of your age, younger and older, from New York, from the other 50 states in this beautiful country, from other countries
Mm-hmm.
who have equal dreams of yours. Unless you put a lot of effort and you're disciplined, then your nice swing is just a nice swing. So the following week we met and I said, hey, how are you doing? Yeah. So how what did you do? How was your game? I was focused and I stole second base. Okay, all right. So he was disciplined and focused. I said, great, beautiful. So, but I took that opportunity on purpose
Mm-hmm.
because how many young athletes do we know that they ride on their high skills and they believe that just because they are very highly skillful, they have this equation or say, oh, this equal me being the top of the draft or being the next Magic Johnson or the next, I don't know, Kobe Bryant, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
It's very tempting for these young athletes. I'm not saying that you don't have to dream big. God, please do dream big, but don't just dream. Dream is part of this equation, but you have to be disciplined, you have to focus, you have to show tenacity, and you have to really put a lot of effort in order to increase your chances to be as good as you can
Mm-hmm.
be. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good point there. And you mentioned, the teaching of discipline, or just I've had a conversation about it. Is discipline something that you can teach,
Yeah, of course.
or is it something that somebody has to have inside them? Like, you just have to be able to do it.
Um, it is it's effort. It's a
Yeah.
conscientious effort in order to increase the chances of being disciplined. So we have many distractors, right, that will get in the way of us being disciplined.
Mm-hmm.
So if my distraction, for example, I need to, I don't know, get up in the morning and go to the gym. All right. So what are possible distractors? I hit this snooze button, right? All right.
It's cold outside.
It's cold outside. All right. So what could be things that can help me to feel increase the chances of get rolling? Okay, so I'm gonna place a chair next to my bed, and on the chair, I'm gonna place all the clothes and shoes and everything that I need to hit the gym.
Mm-hmm.
So the second I open my eyes, I see it. So okay. So for example, if I am distracted because I am a student, for example, I need to do
Mm-hmm.
assignments, but I have the TV next to me. All right, hit the control remote in a place where it's so far away that you cannot turn on the TV. I have students, for example, that the phone is a major obstacle to, to many of us. So they go to their room, and before they go to their room, they walk by the kitchen, they throw or they place the phone in one of the drawers in the kitchen, and they go to their room to do the homework. Now you can say, well, but I can open anything on the phone and still get distracted. Sure, absolutely. But you're trying to minimize distraction and enhance more visibility to the things you want to achieve. There's no
Mm-hmm.
such a thing as if I do X, that will guarantee me Y. Otherwise, life would be quite simple. But if I can do certain things, I will increase my chances of achieving something. And on the other hand, minimize distractions. The net result is increasing the possibilities or the opportunities that I will do what needs to be done next. There is it's a book that I really like by James Clear. It's called The Atomic Bombs, and I highly recommend it. I read it from cover to cover. And he talks about many attributes and many ways of enhancing your habits because he calls our habits. I mean, getting up late or not doing what you need to do become habits. And if in order to undo those habits, they must be replaced by something new. They cannot just by because we say to ourselves, "Oh, I will stop." I don't know, um, doing something which is not healthy. I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
eating. I don't know, pizza, whatever. Well, then if you drive by a pizza shop, a pizza place, there goes it, right? Um, so he's a lot about explaining all different situations and what to do to increase the chances so that the possibilities of acting so that you will exercise and complete what you want to complete are enhanced. And on the other hand, eliminate or try to eliminate as much as possible distractions so that because they're not distracting you or not as much, then you're decreasing the chances of being distracted. So it's the two things that I like that book, so I can highly recommend it, of course.
Awesome, awesome. Minimize the distractions. I got to remember that for myself sometimes, because
Yeah,
it's easy to be distracted, especially when you have your brain just have 50 million things to do in your mind, and so it's like,
right.
how do you do that? So even like from an athlete's perspective, you have to be in tune with your body because of
Yeah,
what you need to complete. And
that's
if
right.
you're distracted, your mind is all over the place, then how
Yeah,
can you perform
that's right.
in any capacity? How do you want to get up in the gym, get up in the morning, go to the gym and do the things when you don't really feel like doing that? But the ultimate goal is to be able to be great at
That's right.
whatever you're doing.
Yeah,
Hopefully that kid, if he doesn't go to the New York Yankees, which is
yeah,
my favorite baseball team, maybe he's out
that's
there
right.
doing something
Yeah,
one of these days.
yeah, yeah,
And so you have the sports mental edge, and I saw that as trademark. And so it's got to be something special about the sports mental edge. Can you give us more information about, what makes this technique so special? And because it's obvious worth putting the trademark paperwork in.
yeah,
And
that's
so
right.
I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah. So I love the logo as well. I think it's super cool. I like it very much. I
Hmm.
So I think the edge comes from incorporating the the dialogue between the brain and the body. How become more holistic in understanding that performance is not just about going and being positive and having positive thoughts. Sure, those are needed, but there are also techniques that I use with athletes that incorporate what we call the non-verbal experience. So when the I don't know if you guys are familiar, but the body goes instinctively. It goes through what is called the fight or flight response. So
Hmm.
when the body goes into a perceived situation where this safety is possibly not guaranteed or assessed, then the body automatically goes into the next stage of fight or flight. So we cannot be in connection, conversation, and engaging and safe and fight or flight at the same time. The body is not equipped to do that. It's either I am in safety mode, I'm engaging, having fun, it's great, or fight or flight. Now, the fight or flight is the player perceiving something and the body wanted to execute the fight or flight. So the fight meaning I am uncomfortable, I don't like that person, I want to run away, I want to move away.
Hmm.
Fight means I'm very upset. I want to just punch this person because I'm very angry. So
Hmm.
neurologically and from a chemical and neurological perspective, the body goes into a orchestration of many movements within the body that leads the muscles and the oxygen and the blood to move. Either fight, meaning the upper body, the arms, or flight, meaning from the hips down. There's more energy so we can run, basically. Now, if I worked with a field hockey player once, and she was very upset. The hockey player, the coach, kept yelling at her every time she was kind of making a mistake, or according to his judgment, the play was not executing the game or the play as he was hoping. So he was raising the voice, blah blah blah. So this talented player has gotten kind of used to, or anticipating rather, coach is going to raise his voice, and blah 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 blah. So what was happening was that rather than taking risks, she was not,
Hmm.
because her body has learned and brain that in the past the coach was kept yelling at me for making a mistake. Therefore, the solution is I'm not making this. I'm not going to attempt this risky move again. So she was very upset about this, and that's why she reached out to me. So we went through an educational process about the fight or flight response, but also what is called the freeze response, meaning all the fight or flight response cannot be really be executed. It's not that the body can execute the fight or flight. I cannot, like, if I feel like I wanted to get away because I'm tired of this coach, I just walk away in the middle of the game. I cannot do that because I'll be kicked out of the team. Right? So, and I cannot go up to the sidelines and punch the coach either. That's fight. I'll be kicked out. So the brain informs the body, because the body who wants to do the fight or flight. The brain says to the body, hey, I get you. I know you want to punch the coach. And I know that you want to get away from this team. However, either of those two options will lead you to lose a spot in your team. For you need to move on and continue playing. Now, the brain talks to the body and quote unquote wins that conversation. So she continues being part of the team. However, at the expense of performing at a high level, because she's, in a way, the body remembers what has happened, and we go into these incomplete fight or flight responses. And that's where my edge comes in because I integrate a mind body clinical technique that helps how to release that stuck in the body fight or flight responses. Because once those are released and completed in my office, of course, not with the coach, but in my office, then the body will see the coach, the upsetting coach. However, the body will not have those high intensity reactions. And therefore, because the reactions are less intense, the skills and trust will more likely to take over.
Mm.
So that we go back again. The issue is not about minimizing, so therefore I'm not upset about the coach, is to complete these physiological internal reactions that the body is wanted to complete, but it can be completed in my office or through video conversations, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So the body has found a way to organically complete them. Once it is completed, Justin, it's completed. That's it. That's what the body wants to do. So therefore, when it is triggered by that coach, what is triggered is not that incomplete response of wanting to fight or flight. It triggers, yeah, it's upsetting me, but not at that level. And therefore, I can now continue maneuvering and continue trusting on my skills, which is, in essence, what we're looking for in athletes. Makes sense?
Yeah, it does. Makes a lot of sense. I wa- my question I just thought of just now, just recently, not even on the script, is like, we teach these techniques and tactics to the athletes so much to help them, perform at a better rate. How important is it, or is it even important at all, for these coaches to understand what's happening? We do know the same for the
Absolutely.
kids and the athletes. It's like, okay, what about the coaches? Like, do you understand what's going on to help create atmosphere so everybody can perform? And so, is that critical for the coach?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So cognitive understanding is more the thinking. The body is sensation coming from to the nervous system. So they're typically known as a top-down approach in clinical conversation. When we address the body, the sensations first, and then the brain, is called bottom up. So it's called top down, which is what normally used. And then what I practice as well is the bottom up. So I bring the two of them together. The same thing works in organizations. We cannot work just with the athlete as if it was just a bottom up. We need to equally work top down. Is the teaching, education of coaches, of course, assistant coaches, even the team owners, for them to understand how these conversations happen and what triggers what and the other persons, so that by being more mindful of how this is being triggered and how this is triggering me, because I'm triggered as well. It's not that other people are triggered, hey, but I'm not. I'm triggered too, right? So if my coach had just lost 2 or 3 games in a row as head of the department of athletics, I can maybe lose it and go after the coach. So it's my nervous system that's being triggered. So I, director of athletics, need to have a much better, efficient way of coping my nervous system so I can have a productive conversation with the coach. Right? So the coach can then have a productive conversation with the players. Because if I am a DA and then I have got the coach upset, most likely, or I'm not most likely, but we increase the chances that now the coach feels that really high pressure and now moves or transfers that pressure onto the players. So rightly so, you make total sense, Justin. It's a conversation that needs to be taking place bottom up and then top down. Absolutely.
So, I mean, how do we get people like that on board? Because I know, like, because you work with different ages in the sports space, and so I know it's like easy for some kids like, hey, let me just call your parent or your parents calling in, and the work
Yeah.
is done. But like, how do you make sure that the athlete is invested, even with the sportsmanal edge piece? Like, how do we is the athlete invested?
Well, you create a program. I mean, typically somebody calls me, or I can reach out to somebody as well. I say, hey, we have a situation with either player or team that we seem to be having this situations. Okay, so we have to understand what's the goal and then what are the obstacles that get in the way, what are mental, emotional skills, and maybe it's nutritional, maybe it's exercising. What are these 4 pillars that all of them need to be addressed so that the team can perform at a better level? Maybe it has something to do not necessarily with the coach not being nice. I mean, he's a very nice coach. Maybe the players
Mm-hmm.
are very good. Now, one of the situations that are coming up with these rearrangements of conferences is there are teams are traveling from West Coast to East Coast and East Coast back to the West Coast. Now, there's an athlete that has taken accounting one or some class whose project is due. Now, some of those players aspire to be professionals and hopefully they could become very successful ones. But out of the, I don't know, 50 or 70 members in the roster, many that are hopefully pursue other careers and they need that degree. It means really a lot to them. So how are they able to put all these many hours in uh, travel, practice, film, then competing, and now I have to go West Coast, East Coast? How is this affecting my sleep? If I'm not sleeping enough hours, the brain gets tired. If the brain is tired, then it's not able to process information that I need to then complete assignments, projects, or being ready to take a test. So there are many other components that need to be addressed of maybe in this case is travel. We need to find different ways so that in the commitment that they have signed up and they are competing from coast to coast, then they need to find other ways so they can either find hours to complete assignments or sleeping times when they can get more rest. So there are many components, Justin,
Mm-hmm.
that lead to a team to be successful. Sometimes has to be with mental, sometimes to do with emotional components, but sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's just other components within athletics that need to be addressed, and that's how we typically we address it. Yeah,
Okay. It's very important that it's not just performance that always impacts, like everything else, like what makes up the total individual,
yeah, absolutely.
from the social emotional standpoint, what things are happening in your life,
Yeah,
whether it's, life
yeah,
events, life events
that's right.
really have
That's
an
right.
impact on these athletes too.
That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um and so we want to touch on this just briefly because I know that, you've become an esteemed author now and you've written a chapter in navigating the globally evolving field of sports exercise performance psychology. You wrote a chapter in this textbook was about to be released, I guess, sometime soon in the future. Can you talk about a little bit like what were some of the things that you covered in your chapter for the book?
yeah. So thank you for this question. I so with my good friend Hillary, we wrote together this nice chapter, and to some extent, Justin is kind of what we have been talking now is
Mm-hmm.
trying to educate and I listen a few pages, how the nervous system informs performance, how the nervous system informs mental health, how we cannot just focus on going, and just being positive and have positive thinking. Sure, that's necessary, but we also have other components in our beautiful body that
Mm-hmm.
we need to also pay attention to so we understand how to better manage our stress by incorporating mindfulness and other techniques, including breathing relaxations and mindfulness, stress management. So other techniques that includes more than standing from the neuroscience perspective. So basically, that's what the chapter is about. It's more education, informative, but also bringing that information of a neuroscience perspective on applying through the exercises so that can actually be put into practice in a very concise way. It's just a few pages, but I think it's very
Mm-hmm.
informative, and I think that if we can begin the process of information education
Mm-hmm.
about this value in performance, the rest will follow.
Mm-hmm.
I remember maybe a silly example, or maybe not, but in the 50s and 60s, smoking on TV and in movies was seen as, oh, everybody does it and it
Everybody.
is perfectly fine. Until research was coming up and better information, better education began to inform us, hey, wait a minute, but if you do smoke, these could be possible health consequences.
Mm-hmm.
So now we are better educated and consequently we make decisions better based on being better educated. And I think that the purpose of educating about neuroscience and the application of in the mental wellness performance situations is beginning to talk about these conversations, that it's important to have more holistic mind body integration. for the
Hmm.
purpose of better communications, better performance, and better health, I think, overall. So that's kind of hoping that I am putting the first, I don't know, not first, but a little contribution into this type of a
I
nice
think it's
conversation.
greatly needed. I call him my little nephew, my friend's son, and I'm telling him like the importance of like, the neurons in your body when it comes to sports, because the position that you serve, every sport that requires any type of athlete, which is all of them, you have to be able to respond quickly. And so your response actually comes from your nervous system and your neurons. And so if those bad boys are firing well, if the synapses have already occurred and you get those bad boys rolling, you can be able to respond a little bit more quickly to what you need to be doing. Because I was looking at, this was years ago. They did a science of baseball, and they were just talking about the response time from the ball when it leaves a pitcher's hand to when the batter actually has to respond. It was like 0.2 seconds or something astronomical. I'm just like, but in order to do that, like your body has to be able to respond. And therefore, in order to do that, you have to have, I wouldn't say total control, but it almost feels that way. Like everything has to be working together. And the only way, I'm not a neuroscientist. I know a little bit from my graduate studies, but I just know like how important your neurons are when it comes to responding and being able to have a better impact in what you're doing.
Absolutely.
It's so
Absolutely.
critical. It's so important.
Education, education, education. Yeah. The more we
Have
know,
to,
the better we can, better decision we make. Absolutely. Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure.
I think it's wonderful. Yeah. In the evolution, I guess, in performance.
Hmm.
Years ago, athletes were taking their summer off or off season completely. They were not doing anything, right?
Hmm.
Then they began to understand the value of, oh, we need to continue working out and bigger. Then they began to understand the value of the psychology. Then began to understand the value of nutrition. Then began to value the value of um, what's it called? Oh, now, for example, mental health.
Hmm.
So it's an evolution in the improvement of how to be a better person from a human perspective that translates into better performance, right?
Hmm.
I think it's wonderful to have these elite athletes, Olympic athletes, professional athletes, talking about their own struggles
Hmm.
because it helps to normalize that if Simone Biles is struggling in her mental wellness, but is
Hmm.
addressing that and then seeing the success of addressing it by then coming back and competing at a high level, that
Hmm.
sends a huge message. Because
Yeah.
then the younger girl or the young boy who's maybe struggling with some mental health issues, they can say, oh, but Simone Biles did it, and others. Um, so we really applaud very, very loudly these
Yeah.
top athletes to speak up.
I'm
Absolutely.
so glad. I'm so glad Simone said something because it never
Yeah.
occurred to me till she said it, like
Yeah.
how dangerous it is to not to have the twisties.
That's right.
Like
That's right.
you have to get to a
Yeah,
point where your body is just moving
that's
and
right.
doing. And
Yeah,
anytime you have any type of blockage, I mean,
that's
you
right.
can be mid-air and then just not know how to play, and then you're breaking a leg or something. So until
That's
she
right.
said it, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. And then to
Absolutely.
know that the athletes themselves knows about this, but nobody's been talking because everybody knew the
Yeah,
term twisties were. I'm like,
that's right.
outside of
Yeah,
gymnastics, it was
that's
like
right.
me. I didn't know what
Yeah,
a twisties was. Like, what is that?
that's right. That's
And
right.
so being in
Yeah,
the fact, like you mentioned, like she
that's
educated
right.
the whole time. We're like, oh,
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
so it's
yeah.
better to take off instead of sitting here breaking my neck,
That's
doing
right. Yeah, 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 yeah,
a 1080 flip or something. I don't know. Just how
yeah,
important it
yeah,
is to have the mind
yeah,
and the body together. No,
yeah, yeah.
before.
And the
Yeah, it's
conversation
awesome.
before, Justin, was about being, it has to be mentally tough.
Yeah,
It has to be
I don't
tough.
like that term.
But what does being tough mean? Right? Is minimizing what I'm going through, what I'm experiencing. Is that
Hmm.
tough? I mean,
I was thinking
I'm
about that. I
biased, but
literally think about that the other morning. Like I was sitting here thinking like mentally tough, and it just came out of blue, and I'm just like mentally tough. I don't like that term, and like I know how I don't know, maybe it's an archaic term where it's like if you're tough, you're gonna be strong, then you can do it. But it's
yeah,
much more the toughness is to me. It's almost like you have to be mentally sound. Like like when it
that's
comes to
right.
being
Yeah,
aware of all the things in your body in order to overcome it. Because if you're not sound, then you have no idea what's going on
yeah,
and how to
yeah.
achieve it. But that mental toughness piece there is I don't I'm glad you said it because I don't like it.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Well, so maybe we can do a combination of what about being mentally tough and emotional resilient.
I like that.
So I can work on being emotional more resilient
Mm-hmm.
while being tough. And tough we can look into being committed to something or discipline, for example.
Yeah.
Or addressing what's in front of me from a challenge perspective rather than an obstacle perspective, or seeing something as what I have control over versus no control over. That can build toughness, right?
Yeah.
Now, I can also build toughness by being emotionally resilient. And I think that if you combine both parts of this human equation, wouldn't that we have then more present, grounded athlete that when it feels some nervousness or say, "Oof," rather than just navigating them by negating them or pretending it's not happening, I can take a breath from the belly just for 2 or 3 times and just allow the breath to come in from the belly, not from the upper chest, but from the belly, and just allow that to happen, and the body will be more grounded. And then next. So then the body will find a better way of managing otherwise that intense energy that feels trapped inside.
Okay, I can deal with that. I like that now. You put the rephrasing there, how important that is.
Yeah.
And Alex, I know we talk all night long. I mean, it's a great conversation.
Yes, absolutely.
But I love having guests where I just feel like I want to stop looking at the time and like, okay, just keep on going. But life happens. But I would like
always
to
have
end.
a part 2.
Yeah. I love a part 2. And so one thing I like to leave the show with is the title of the show, And Then We Win. And so we focus on all things like, what do we need to focus on before we consider winning being a topic? From like the athlete standpoint, what happens, what needs to be present before we talk about the concept of winning. And so I'll ask all my guests, what do you think is very important that needs to be addressed before we talk about winning in the space for the athletes or the coaches or the teams?
What's the question?
What do we need to focus on that's very important before we talk about or address winning?
Oh, okay. Well, I think maybe we can put winning at the end of the equation. I think more important is addressing learning. I need to learn, to continuously learn, because I think we are constantly learning. There's another book that I recommend. Of course,
and thank you for tuning in to And Then We Win. My name is Dr. Justin Singleton, and I'm a sports social worker. I love what I do. And if you're interested in learning how I can best support your athlete, your parent group, or even the team, please feel free to reach out to me at info@justsinglevision.com. That is info@justsinglevision. Feel free to contact me for a free 30-minute consultation so we can figure out how we can best support the mind, vision, and action of your athletes. Thank you and take care.